Sometimes folks just up and disappear. At one time, this was actually kind of expected. We didn't have the same network of devices keeping track of everyone, and therefore if someone didn't come home by sunset, most would assume that they got swallowed by a bear. But sometimes these circumstances are much stranger and much more mysterious. So today we're going to count down the top 5 unexplained disappearances. Let's get to it. Coming in at number 5, we've got the Springfield 3. And no, we are not talking about Mo, Lenny, and Carl, although I'm sure they've disappeared mysteriously from time to time. We're talking about the real-life Springfield and 3 people that seemingly had nowhere to disappear to. Back in June of 1992, students in Springfield, Missouri were celebrating their high school graduation. Kickapoo High School had just watched its graduating class toss their hats and jump for joy. The world was opening up for these teenagers. However, for 2 students and even more remarkably one of their mothers, this was actually the end of the line. Or was it? Plenty of parties were being thrown to commemorate the end of the high school experience. Susie Streeter and Stacy McCall were hopping between parties, soaking in the celebratory atmosphere, listening to whatever jock rock was popular in the 90s, living life. But when the night seemed to be drawing to a close, the duo decided it was best to head home. They had originally planned on staying at one house, but deemed it too packed to comfortably crash in, so they went back to Susie's house. At the time, Susie lived there with her mother, Cheryl Levin. So the 2 girls went home, and that was the last their friends ever saw of them. Assuming all went well, some pals swung by Susie's house the next day to pick up the girls for a trip to the water park. But there was to be no sliding and splashing that day, no. The friends arrived at the house, but nobody seemed to be home. Strangers still, the front door was unlocked and a porch light was broken. The house was largely untouched too, with stuff like cars, keys, cigarettes, and purses all still present. So the 2 graduates made it home and unpacked for sure, and the mother was likely still in the house that previous night. Even the dog was still at home, wandering around. But to this day, nobody is sure what happened to the women. Apparently there was a mysterious message left on the answering machine, but this was deleted somehow before anyone could record it. Anonymous, obscene phone calls were apparently quite common at the time, but could this have been one with more meaning? We might never know. Coming in at number 4, the Sarah Joe. Let this be a lesson to all ye landlubbers. Be careful while out on the water. You never know what might happen. Back in the late 70s, a group of pals decided to have a fun time out on the coast of Maui. Fishing, chatting, and general merriment was on the docket. Disappearing into a storm and washing up years later, not part of the plan. But then again, when do things go exactly as planned? 5 friends boarded the small fishing boat, the Sarah Joe, and made their way out onto the water. What they didn't see coming was an enormous tropical storm. Should have checked the weather, eh? They never returned, sparking a massive search and rescue effort. However, the rescuers came up empty-handed. Unfortunate, but not uncommon when it comes to small boats entering big storms. However, that was just the beginning of the mystery. 10 years passed and nobody found anything else related to the Sarah Joe. But then, all of a sudden, the boat was found, washed up on one of the Marshall Islands between Hawaii and the Philippines. A decade had gone by with no sign of the boat, but here it was. However, the boat wasn't a coffin full of unfortunate sailors as one might morbidly expect. In fact, 4 of the 5 still friends are still accounted for, but there was one man who was found, but just not in a way anybody expected. Next to the shipwreck was a grave, and buried in that grave was one of the men. But then who buried him? And where did they go? And why didn't they report what happened? At this point, I don't think we're getting any satisfying answers. Coming in at number 3, we've got Amelia Earhart. The classic mysterious disappearance. I feel like even kids know this one, whether it's from their abridged history books or pop culture putting their own spin on the story. But one thing doesn't change. Nobody truly knows what happened to this flying ace during her most elaborate trip. Amelia Earhart was determined to break all sorts of records. She wanted to be the first to do lots of stuff, too. This goal was realized when she became the first female pilot to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. However, this achievement was not enough for her. She and her navigator, Fred Noonan, decided they would try their hand at flying around the world. The entire world, all the way around. That is a tall order no matter how you look at it. But they were determined. They were ready. However, the world had other plans for them. They set off from New Guinea, hoping to make it to a remote island in the Pacific. Together they managed to cover about 22,000 miles, which made up about 2/3 of their planned expedition. However, at that point they ran low on fuel, and after that they seemed to just outright disappear. Somewhere over the Pacific, the fearless aviator and her navigator poof, vanished. For 2 weeks, rescue crews searched for the downed aircraft, but to no avail. To this day, no solid evidence of Amelia has cropped up. Many theories have been floated as to how this could have happened though. Some say she crashed on her way to Holloway Island, with the plane sinking to the bottom of the ocean. Others claim she was captured on the Japan-controlled Saipan Island after making an emergency landing there. This fuels all sorts of other theories too, with some saying that she was executed and others believing that she was released into the United States under an alias. Nothing has been confirmed, however, and thus the Amelia Earhart mystery remains one of the most mysterious out there. Hey, if you're liking the video so far, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps us out with the algorithm. On with the video. Coming in at number 2, we've got Lauren Spierer. Now, for round 2 of mysterious after-party disappearances, let this be a lesson to you all. If you party too hard, you might forget where you are. Forget where you are and you might disappear. In 2011, Indiana University student Lauren Spierer vanished, seemingly into thin air. She was last seen in downtown Bloomington near a friend's off-campus apartment. The disappearance quickly turned into an incident of national importance, with a widespread Find Lauren campaign being launched. Media outlets across the country reported on the disappearance, inspiring celebrities to join in and spread the word. Social media latched onto the campaign as well, which spread the message far and wide. But all this awareness led to nothing, as Lauren still remains missing to this day. Some folks think her friends might have supplied her with drugs and she overdosed. In the ensuing chaos, the friends might have decided to hide the body as best they could to avoid being involved. Her family hired a private investigator in 2011 to assist in the effort. The investigator, Michael Ciravolo, has remained on the case for the better part of a decade. Every tip he gets seems to lead to a dead end though, which is frustrating. At this point, he's fully committed to finding the lost student, and in fact, he feels a deep connection with the family. The case is close to his heart now, and he doesn't plan on giving up. So with such widespread attention and the dedication of a private investigator, how is it that Lauren still remains a mystery? One would think in the era in which smartphones were becoming so much more prevalent, more evidence would crop up, but at this point, no big leads are out there. And coming in at number 1, we've got D.B. Cooper. Now here's a fascinating disappearance. On November 24th, 1971, an unknown man hijacked a plane. After ordering a drink, he claimed to have a bomb in his suitcase and demanded $200,000 in 20s. He got what he asked for when they landed, and once the rest of the passengers disembarked, he told them to fly to Mexico City. Cooper didn't make it to his stated destination though. After collecting the incredible sum of ransom money, he donned a parachute and leapt from the aircraft. Hardcore, right? It's unknown what happened to him, however. The FBI seems to believe he wouldn't have made it considering the conditions of his jump. But no evidence of a parachute-wearing man with $200,000 in cash has ever shown up either. He might have been swept up in the wind and rain, landing in a heavily wooded area wearing business attire, or maybe he did end up making it to safety. It's impossible to know for sure, but it sure is fun to hypothesize. How absolutely brain-bending. People disappear all the time, but rarely get the attention these folks do. Are their tales cover-ups? Were they involved in something more sinister? Or is life really just totally random and unexplainable? Food for thought. So, what'd you think of the list? Do you have any groundbreaking theories? What's the most mysterious disappearance of all time? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more iridescent ones from the top 5 newest SCP Monsters 2020 montage. Ishmael David says, "Yay, awesome, I'm early, well cool. Gotta love learning about new SCPs. New SCPs are exciting SCPs. Thanks for watching." General Kenobi says, "Yes. Correct, indeed, affirmative." Ghostmaster says, "I love your vid and also talking about Pacific Rim. Giant monsters fighting giant mech is Pacific Rim. I love this idea. I love Pacific Rim. I would like it if it came true." Hell yeah, Ghostmaster. I hope someday you're able to pilot a Jaeger of your very own. Deep Sea Nightmare says, "Keegan, will you read me a Stephen King bedtime story?" Well, pick your favorite from Night Shift or Everything's Eventual and we'll see what I can do. Well, cash wouldn't hurt your chances either. And Steven JuicyVids45 says, "Can you please tell us about SCP-4666? Check out our winter SCP videos, or maybe even head over to Life's Biggest Questions in the coming days, because I know that there's a video about the Yule Man coming down the line." And that's all the time we have for today. I'm going to challenge SCP-076 to a duel to the death. Wish me luck. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Deep Sea Nightmare.
Yep. Thank you. Sorry, I ran out of breath there. I'm gonna try this again.
Just Tank Yoda.
Just the beefiest Yoda. Grogu.
Exactly. That was your sound check? Perfect.
Grogu. Grogu's an unexplained disappearance. His family wants to know where he is and why he's traveling the universe with a bounty hunter. Are those Christmas tunes bleeding through?
No, they haven't been before. Sometimes we get some jazzy flute in there too. Yeah, it's very mild, and like as you talk, you don't hear it.
Like Baby Jesus, tender and mild?
Exactly.
Perfect.
Also, they put on music over top of this, so you're set.
Ah, that's fair. Cool. But when the night, they had originally planned at staying, assuming they went, but could this have been one with, however, at that point they land row on seemingly into midair. He got what he asked for after they landed, and once the rest of the passengers disembarked, eh? They disembarked.
Woo.
Wow, that's some real smooth saxophone coming through right now.